Okay, so it's a deep diaphragmatic breathing technique. It's done in through the mouth, out through the mouth. Now, 99.9% of the time, you should be breathing through your nose. The nose is connected to your parasympathetic nervous system, which is rest and digest, and that's that homeostasis place that you want to live, right? So you don't want to live in your sympathetic nervous system, which is your fight or flight, and that is connected to mouth breathing. So why do we do the mouth breathing? It's because you cannot achieve the amount of release that we do with nose breathing. Even if you look at the body's natural response to alleviating built up stress or pain, what does it do? If you watch the body when someone's stressed, it builds, and then all of a sudden they go like this.
Welcome to another episode of the Matter Over Mind Experience. I'm your host, master trainer, and weight management expert, Narado Zeco Powell. And I have another fantastic episode because you know your boy always delivers, right? I always bring the best guests on the show. And today I have Kurtis Lee Thomas. And we're going to talk about mindfulness today. We know that weight loss, health issues, everything in this world that we deal with has an impact on the mind and vice versa. So I wanted to bring Kurtis on the episode today because he is a distinguished corporate mindfulness trainer and influential public speaker. He has a track record of working with Fortune 500 and prestigious companies. Let me tell you, to work with Fortune 500 and these big companies, you can't just be any and anybody. No, you have to really know your stuff and know what you're talking about. And he's worked with companies like Nike, NASA, the Capital Group, and so much more. So with that being said, Kurtis, welcome to the show, my man.
Nico, thank you for having me, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you for being here, my friend. I'm so glad because you have so much information that you're going to share with my audience, right? So with that being said, let's start off with breath flow and detox, or breath work and detox, because we hear those words a lot thrown around, and a lot of times even trainers don't even know what these things are. So in your experience, tell us, what are breath work and detox?
Yeah, so breath work is an umbrella term. So kind of like yoga, you have yoga, but then you have Kundalini yoga, flow yoga. There's many different forms of it. So there's many different forms of breath work. There's one breathwork technique in particular. Now I created the name myself. The name of the company is called Breathwork Detox. And I took, detox, which is a term a lot of people know, which is to get rid of something, to cleanse the body of something. And with those two, the deep diaphragmatic breathwork technique that I do is the most powerful breathing technique that you can do. It's very cathartic and it releases energy and even emotions from you more than anything else I've ever experienced. And mind you, I've done some pretty invasive techniques or plant medicines, such as ayahuasca and even something called it's called combo, which is frog venom. So this was on my own healing journey when I was extremely desperate. And when you're desperate to healing and feel better, you're more open to trying new things. So this technique, I took the detox part. Now, when you put breathwork detox together, sometimes the weight that we need to lose isn't on our physical bodies. People are carrying around a lot of baggage, and you hear that term, carrying around baggage. Well, what is baggage? It's, ex heartbreaks, situationships. It is failures, either in business or whatever. We all go through these certain traumas in our life or these certain experiences. And when we don't have the emotional intelligence, or things just keep coming at us left and right, which I call life, they begin to stack up and compound. And there's not a lot of techniques out there that allows you to hit the pressure relief valve. And this particular breathing technique does just that and so much more.
So Kurtis, now I'm interested now. So tell us more about this technique.
Okay, so it's a deep diaphragmatic breathing technique. It's done in through the mouth, out through the mouth. Now, 99.9% of the time, you should be breathing through your nose. The nose is connected to your parasympathetic nervous system, which is rest and digest. And that's that homeostasis place that you want to live, right? So you don't want to live in your sympathetic nervous system, which is your fight or flight. And that is connected to mouth breathing. So why do we do the mouth breathing? It's because you cannot achieve the amount of release that we do with nose breathing. Even if you look at the body's natural response to alleviating built up stress or pain, what does it do? If you watch the body when someone's stressed, it builds, and then all of a sudden they go like this. They do a sigh of what? A sigh of relief. So it does that through the mouth. It builds. So when you breathe out through the mouth, you're breathing out. Now in sports, right? If you look at boxes, you can tell who's better conditioned by who's doing what. Huffing and puffing with their mouth open. Even runners, when they have their mouth closed and they're breathing through their nose, they're circulating, they're keeping that energy in. But sometimes there's energy in our body that we need to detox from. And what I think a lot of people miss or just don't know is that 70% of the body's toxins are actually released through the lungs. So 70%, all these detox pills and detox diets, and everyone's trying to detox, but 70% of all detox is done through the mouth. So another strange study that I learned, because I created a program called Breathwork Bootcamp, and it was a 30-day challenge. People going through this challenge, 30 days doing breathwork every single day, this technique that I teach. And I did it because I thought people were going to have this huge emotional release, and it was to cleanse the body, of anything they're holding on to that doesn't serve their highest and greatest good. However, that did happen, but people were losing weight. And I couldn't understand it because it wasn't my intention. So I'm like, why are these people losing weight? Literally sending us photographs of their waistline. I lost 12 pounds. I lost 9 pounds. So I'm baffled. I didn't have the science or the knowledge of why people are losing weight with this particular technique. And then I learned about, 70% of the body's toxins are released through the lungs, but then also stress. What happens when we're stressed? When we're stressed, the adrenals release something called cortisol. And when cortisol's in the body, a Harvard study shows that it actually makes us crave sugary and crappy foods. So two things happen when you do this technique. First of all, there's no other breathing technique that alleviates the excess stress that we're holding on to. So when you cut down your stress, you're cutting down your cortisol, and you're also craving less crappy foods. So I ended up calling it the guilt-free weight loss program, because we don't tell you, don't eat this, don't eat that, because you'll naturally not want those things. And then I learned, this one blew my mind. I had to keep researching to see if this is really true. And 8.5 out of every 10 pounds of weight loss isn't through other forms of secretion like we think. It's actually through carbon dioxide. The release of the carbon dioxide. So breath work. So that means 85% of all weight loss is through breath work, and 70% of all toxins is released through the lungs. So when we put these two together and people are doing this challenge, one, they're not craving those crappy foods. They're cutting down on their stress, and they're detoxing. And when you release things that you're holding on to, right? Because, sometimes it's not the weight of the baggage, it's how you carry it. And a lot of people learn to carry it well. Entrepreneurs, right? They got to hustle and bustle and go through all this crap, and they don't have time to process those emotions, right? Single mothers, they do a lot. They, getting the lunch and the dinners ready, and being a wife, and actually having to work too. That's a lot. So these people that have all these things going on, these emotional stuff, it builds up. And by doing this technique, you kind of tap into the same release of the sigh, but you're doing it consciously in a deep diaphragmatic breathwork detox experience. So, the physical things that happened with this is phenomenal.
And I love that you broke all that down, because if with every single client, I usually bring them through some kind of practice to lower their stress levels. And it always includes some level of breath work. So the coaches, the nutritionists, the dietitians, they've been doing this for a long time. most of us know that impact and we add that into our routine. But what you're telling me, because of how deep the diaphragmatic work is, it even releases more than even the traditional practice would. Which leads me to my next question. And I'm pretty sure I know the answer, but I want my audience to hear it. Because we can say, okay, there's yoga and there's meditation. I can just do that and lower my cortisol levels, no problem. So how would you say your technique would be different from those practices?
Yeah. So I do all of those. I do yoga and I do meditation, and I love them. But as far as the effectiveness of releasing the stress, right? Yoga, for instance, it's really great. But if you take yoga without the breath, conscious breath, it's just stretching. That's all you're doing, right? And it also depends on what type of yoga, but there's also a lot of barriers to entry to yoga, meaning 54% of the world's population can't bend down and touch their toes. There's certain positions when you get a little older, you can't bend in certain ways, and then there's a real thing, as far as like body shaming and self-image. Not everyone wants to throw on, stretchy pants and a leotard and go bend in weird positions in front of people, right? So there's a little barrier to entry there. And then you look at meditation, which I think is even a more barrier to entry, because it's really hard to get somebody who's already stressed out to sit down, sit still, and don't think a thought for the next 20 minutes. They get more stressed out. So I actually think meditation is more of an advanced practice, because if you try to get somebody who's already stressed to sit down and sit still, it's going to be difficult for them. So meditation is like trying to clean your car with a toothbrush, right? And then breathwork is cleaning your car with a power washer. If you implement a solid breathwork detox practice first, you're able to get rid of all that junk and gunk you've been holding on to. And with meditation, it's more of the maintenance. So you got to do that deep work first. And if you do that, not only is the meditation more effective, it's more enjoyable.
I love that. I love that. And that's really, really true the way you broke that down, because even to do yoga and meditation, I had to build myself up to that. I didn't just wake up one day and start doing yoga and meditation. It's like I had to be already be in a certain mental space to do the yoga and meditation. And it sounds like it's because I did not do the breath work that you just mentioned, which would have gotten me into that space even faster than it would have. So I love that you brought that down, because I think that's a missing bridge for a lot of people. And now you're giving them that bridge so they can get to that final, more advanced stage of yoga and meditation. So I love how you break that down. And I have a final big question, because I know that people actually cry in his sessions. And I really want to talk about that. So but hold on for a second before we get to the crying, because I might cry myself, because I'm a big softy too. I want to talk about one of my favorite companies. I want to talk about the Amino Co, because they have one of my favorite products, which is Heal, 100% science-backed amino acid technology. It's designed to reduce recovery times and improve physical function by accelerating muscle repair while helping you maintain a healthy inflammatory response. And with all that being said, guess what? Weight loss is also connected to a healthy inflammatory response. So Heal is a product that I've loved and been using for so many years, because it has essential aminos, it has creatine and whey protein concentrate. And the combination of that helps your body recover well from your trainings. You're sore, you're tired, you want to go back out there and bang it out again. Heal helps you to do that. You can drink it post-workout. Like myself, I drink it intro workout. It's a fantastic, fantastic product I've been using for so long. In fact, a recent clinical trial compared 1 and 2 scoops of Heal with high quality whey protein. And guess what? The net balance whole protein synthesis were measured, and Heal was found to be 3 times larger a response than the whey protein. 3 times larger. I don't recommend something unless I believe it. And I'm telling you, I love this product and I've been using it forever. The website, well, not forever. Let's say about 3 years. Let's be honest, right? But I've been using it. It's made a big difference in my routine and my recovery, because your boy is also old as dirt, so I need a little bit of recovery there too. But the website is aminoco.com/ZecoHealth, which will be in the description of the podcast. And when you click on it, you get a 30% discount off their fantastic products. But enough of that. Let's get back to Kurtis over here, because I want to know about the crying. Why do people cry in your sessions, man?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I want to say that all crying is a huge energetic release. It's a huge emotional release. And for men, it's a lot difficult to cry because we have to hold those things in, like we talked about earlier. And women, it's a little bit more easier. And this is why, in Eastern culture, they say women live longer than men because they allow their emotions to get expressed. And they did studies. I think it was Dr. Suzuki from the University of British Columbia, who's head of the genetics department. And what they did was they took the condensed molecules of the energy of anger just for 1 hour, had enough to kill 80 guinea pigs. And that's the issue. Like, if you look at people like Steve Jobs, they have all the money in the world, the best doctors in the world, but yet couldn't save himself. Why is that? It's because I don't care how many millions or billions are in your bank account. I don't care how many green juices you drink. If you are holding on to the toxic energies of guilt, shame, regret, or anger, it's a death wish. And I love what I think it was Woody Allen said. He goes, I don't get mad. I just grow a tumor. And that's what happens when you hold on to this toxic stuff, man. It wreaks havoc on your nervous system. And it is crucial to find a practice that releases emotions that you don't want. You don't want these things. So what's interesting about the breath work now, this is astounding. I've led this for tens of thousands of people all over companies like Nike. It doesn't matter who I'm doing it for. I can be doing a breathwork group session for the most masculine men in the world, which I have: Navy SEALs, NFL players, war veterans, all different types. And I will say, statistically, with no exaggeration, at least 50 to 60% of all the people cry during a session. And men or women. Now, why is that? Well, for one is when we're holding on to these emotions, sometimes we have to feel it to heal it. So when we're doing this active technique, it's literally going in your system, right? Going in your body, and any places in your body where you're holding on to an energy or an emotion, right? And you have an energetic impediment, right? It breaks that up and then it expresses itself through a cry. Sometimes it's a laughter, but most of the time it's a big, ugly cry. And you're not sad when you're crying. You're actually being liberated. You're freeing yourself. You feel more buoyant, more lighter. You're not carrying that baggage. And that baggage is heavy, even though we can't see it. And, to geek out, if you look at the, Vedic science, and there's something in our body called nadis. And, if I give the analogy of blood, right? We all have blood in our bodies. We know that. But how does the blood get distributed? It gets distributed through veins and arteries. Well, I think we can agree, no matter what religion you are, that we are energetic beings. And science says we're more energy than we are matter. And you can walk in a room saying, they got good vibes there. Meet a person, they got good energy, they got bad energy. We're energetic beings. Well, if there's energy in our body, which we can all agree, how does that energy get distributed throughout the body? And that's where most people fall short of not knowing. It gets distributed through these energetic highways called nadis. There's 72,000 of them in your body. And anatomically, you can't cut yourself open and see them. This is why Western medicine doesn't recognize it, but Eastern medicine does. So if you look at when water's flowing, right? If water is supposed to flow, but when water hits a block or a dam, what does it do? It has to go in another direction in an area it's not supposed to. Well, when there's energy flowing through our bodies, right? And energy, what is emotions? Energy and motion, right? And when that gets blocked, right, then it creates all types of issues within our body. And this is why people don't feel comfortable in their own skin. And you don't even know that you don't feel normal until this stuff is released. So the breath is the only thing that's connected to all 72,000 of these nadis and these energetic channels in our body. So when you do this deep diaphragmatic breathwork in the belly, first of all, your belly is the Times Square of your energy center. It's the one place in the body where all 72,000 nadis intersect. It's also where 80% of your serotonin is produced and 80% of your immune system. We're talking 80% of your health, your happiness, and all your energy. Zeco, if I offered you $1 billion right now to trade for those three things, your health, right? Your happiness and your immune system, you wouldn't do it, you know? So when you do this technique, you're clearing out anything that's impeding those energetic channels, and that's why people cry.
That is huge. And something that stuck with me, you said that women tend to cry more than men. And that has an impact with a lot of women tend to be better with dealing with their emotions than men as well, which what leads to longevity, better health. And like I said, even weight loss, or like I would say weight management is that's all connected. Because and if we don't handle all these things, no matter how good your diet is, it's not going to make a difference. And I'm glad there are experts like you who understand this and can really take us to that next level and also help us with the things, that bridge, the things that we're missing that we did not know that we were missing. So Kurtis, thank you so much for this episode. And with that being said, man, I want you to talk to my audience now. I want you to tell them about how can they learn more about your work. This is your time to shine, my man.
Thank you so much. Well, I'll say if people want to interact with me, contact me. My Instagram is Man from the Stars. So if you go to Man from the Stars and you can send me a message, I'm pretty responsive. And then if anyone's interested in the sessions that I do, because they might go on Google, start looking at breathwork, you're going to see a whole slew of things. But the technique that I'm talking about is a very specific technique. And if you do it for a very specific amount of time, you will have some sort of breakthrough. And that is a session that I do bi-weekly. So every new moon and full moon, so I kind of go by the astrology. So every 2 weeks, I'll do a live virtual event where people can log on from anywhere in the world, and I take them through this process. And if they're interested in that, they can go to breathworkdetox.com. So just go on breathworkdetox.com and you'll see we have teacher training, we have live virtual events, we have corporate, we have all types of things. And you can go to the program suite and then see what you're interested in. We do free consultations and attend an event, man, because trying to describe breathwork is like trying to describe a kaleidoscope to a blind person. It cannot be explained. It can only be experienced.
I 100% agree. And I'm going to be in one of those sessions. And I'm sure many people from this episode are going to be in these sessions. I'm going to advertise it to everyone I possibly can because this is amazing. Thank you so much. And of course, the information will be in the show notes, and the show notes will be in the description of the episode. So basically, you click on the description of the episode, you get to the show notes, find all this information to learn more about Kurtis's work with him, work with the amazing experts that are around him, and improve your life. So thanks so much for listening, everyone. Thank you for watching. Kurtis, thank you for being here. And go ahead. Yeah, one more point.
Yeah,
go
one
ahead.
more thing, man. I'm going to get you into the event. You can come for free, right? I got you. But I do want to say I created a code that if people put in podcast 50, they get 50% off their first virtual event. So sorry to interrupt at the close, but I wanted to give something back to your viewers. So podcast 50 and you guys get 50% off. So that's for you, bud.
Thank you so much. I was typing that, everyone. I type very slow, but podcast 50 will be in the show notes as well. So you get 50% off your first event. Kurtis, thank you so much. Go out there and crush your day, fam.